Kindness is one of the most powerful forces in human nature. It builds trust, strengthens communities, and gives life meaning. But in a world that often confuses kindness with weakness, many good-hearted people end up hurt, drained, or manipulated, not because they lack intelligence, but because they fail to understand where kindness ends and self-respect begins. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that true kindness should never come at the cost of your inner peace, your boundaries, or your dignity. Many people think that being kind means always saying yes, avoiding conflict, or putting others before themselves. But what looks like goodness on the surface can often hide emotional dependence, fear of rejection, or guilt-driven behavior. And the irony is that these very traits, which come from a desire to be loved or accepted, are what make people more vulnerable to disappointment and exploitation. Let's consider a common example. Imagine someone who constantly sacrifices their time, even when they're exhausted. They do it because they don't want to seem selfish. They cover for others, stay late, and never say no. On the outside, this looks noble, but internally it's destructive. They're teaching the world that their time doesn't matter, that their boundaries can be ignored. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid," meaning it's better to disappoint others than to betray your own values. A person who cannot tolerate being misunderstood or disliked will always be at the mercy of others' opinions. The same applies in relationships. Some people think forgiveness means allowing the same person to hurt them repeatedly. They say, "I'm just being kind," when in reality, they're afraid to lose someone. True forgiveness doesn't mean tolerance of harm. It means releasing resentment while still walking away. Stoic kindness is firm, not fragile. It is guided by virtue, not by the need for approval. In today's world, where empathy is often exploited, Stoicism reminds us to balance compassion with clarity. Being kind is not about being naive. It's about acting with intention. You help others, but you don't enable their dysfunction. You give, but you don't drain yourself. You listen, but you don't absorb everyone's pain as your own. The Stoics taught that reason should govern emotion, and that includes the impulse to help. Seneca wrote, "No man can live happily who regards himself alone, who turns everything to his own advantage. You must live for your neighbor, if you would live for yourself." Yet even Seneca emphasized measure, that kindness without wisdom becomes chaos. Modern life rewards those who know how to combine empathy with strength. The kind person who never says no, who fears disappointing others, will eventually burn out. Meanwhile, the one who sets clear boundaries, who chooses where to invest their kindness. True Stoic kindness is not about pleasing others. It's about living according to your principles. It means understanding that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to tell someone the truth they don't want to hear. Sometimes it's walking away from a relationship that drains your soul. Sometimes it's refusing to fix a problem for someone who needs to learn responsibility. The problem with most people who are too kind is not that they care too much, but that they confuse being kind with being harmless. Harmlessness is not a virtue, it's passivity. Stoic kindness, on the other hand, is active, deliberate, and disciplined. It's not rooted in guilt, but in choice. It doesn't ask, "How do I make everyone happy?" It asks, "What action aligns with my values even if it makes someone uncomfortable?" Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor often praised for his calm and compassion. He ruled with immense power, yet he never allowed pity or emotion to cloud his reason. He helped where he could, but he never became a slave to others' desires. His kindness was a reflection of inner strength, not weakness. He wrote, "Be tolerant with others, and strict with yourself." That single sentence summarizes the Stoic approach to kindness: empathy outward, discipline inward. The truth is, real kindness often looks harsh in the moment. Saying no can feel cruel, enforcing boundaries can feel cold, and prioritizing your peace can seem selfish. But over time, people will come to respect that kind of strength far more than endless accommodation, because the world doesn't need more people who are liked. It needs more people who are real, self-respecting, and emotionally sovereign. So before you call something kind, ask yourself, is this coming from love or from fear? Am I being genuinely compassionate, or am I avoiding discomfort? Am I empowering someone or enabling them? The answers to these questions determine whether your kindness is your strength or your vulnerability. In the end, Stoic wisdom teaches that kindness is not about being soft, it's about being wise. It's not about avoiding conflict, it's about standing in truth. Because kindness without wisdom is exploitation waiting to happen, but kindness guided by virtue is one of the highest forms of strength a human being can embody. One of the most common ways people unintentionally make themselves vulnerable is by saying yes too often. At first glance, it seems like the polite, kind, and selfless thing to do. You want to be helpful, reliable, and easy to get along with. You don't want to disappoint others or come across as difficult. But behind this constant agreement hides something dangerous, the quiet erosion of self-respect and inner peace. The Stoics would call this a subtle form of slavery, not of the body but of the mind. Because when you can't say no, you've surrendered control of your time, energy, and emotions to everyone around you. You become a people pleaser, living reactively instead of deliberately. Marcus Aurelius warned against this kind of weakness when he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The fear of upsetting others is an illusion, a mental chain you can break at any time. The truth is, always saying yes doesn't make you kind. It makes you exhausted. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give your best to others when you constantly betray yourself. Every time you agree to something that drains you, you're silently teaching yourself that your needs don't matter. And every time you ignore your own boundaries, resentment starts to grow, slowly, silently, until it poisons the very kindness you were trying to protect. Stoicism teaches that every yes should come from reason, not from guilt or fear. When you act out of guilt, you're not truly giving. You're trying to avoid emotional discomfort. That isn't kindness, and that's avoidance disguised as virtue. A Stoic would pause before saying yes and ask, "Is this aligned with my values? Will this action contribute to the good of both myself and others?" If the answer is no, then saying no is the more moral choice. Consider how this dynamic plays out in daily life. A friend asks for a favor again. You've helped them countless times, but they never seem to learn or grow. Deep down, you know you're enabling their irresponsibility, yet you still say yes because you fear being judged as cold. But Stoic kindness is not about pleasing. It's about serving truth. And the truth is, helping someone too much can make them weaker, not stronger. Epictetus reminded his students that we are responsible for our intentions, not others' reactions. If you refuse someone with honesty and respect, you are not unkind. You're living in accordance with reason, which, to the Stoics, is the highest form of goodness. He said, "If someone does not share your principles, do not be angry with them. They are not instructed." In other words, don't let the fear of misunderstanding stop you from doing what's right for your soul. The inability to say no often stems from a deeper insecurity and the belief that love and acceptance must be earned through constant giving. But genuine relationships don't require self-sacrifice as proof of worth. A healthy person will respect your boundaries. Only manipulators will test them. When you say no with calm firmness, you filter your circle. Those who stay respect you, and those who leave were never truly with you. Saying no is not the opposite of kindness, and it's the expression of self-respect. It says, "I value my time, my energy, and my peace." It creates space for genuine giving, and the kind that comes from abundance, not depletion. A Stoic understands that every moment spent doing what doesn't align with their purpose is a moment stolen from what truly matters. That's why discipline is a form of love. Love directed inward first. In Stoicism, self-control is one of the cardinal virtues. It's what allows a person to remain steady amidst pressure, temptation, and emotional manipulation. When you learn to say no clearly and confidently, you reclaim your time, your focus, and your freedom. And paradoxically, your kindness becomes stronger because now it's real. It's no longer born from fear or guilt, but from conscious choice. People might call you selfish at first. They might guilt trip you, accuse you of changing, or make you feel like you've done something wrong. But that discomfort is temporary. What follows is a deep, lasting peace, of the kind that comes when you finally realize that your worth is not tied to your usefulness. The Stoics never believed in being unkind. They believed in being true. They believed that kindness without truth is hypocrisy, and truth without kindness is cruelty. The balance lies in the middle, in saying yes when it's right and no when it's necessary. In the end, remember this: every time you say yes to something meaningless, You say no to something meaningful. The person who learns to say no wisely will never run out of time, energy, or purpose. The world doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs more authentic ones. Because in the Stoic view, real kindness is not about making everyone happy. It's about acting with integrity, even when it's uncomfortable. There's a kind of kindness that looks innocent on the surface, not apologizing too much, saying sorry for small things, for things beyond your control, or even for simply existing in someone's space. It feels polite, humble, and considerate. But beneath that constant self-blame lies a dangerous pattern, one that slowly destroys confidence, authority, and inner peace. Over-apologizing is often mistaken for humility, but it's actually a symptom of self-doubt. The Stoics would see it as a misunderstanding of virtue. True humility is strength. It's knowing your limits without diminishing your worth. But over-apologizing is the opposite. It's self-erasure. It tells the world, I am the problem even when I'm not. In Stoic philosophy, every emotion and action should come from reason, not fear. When you apologize reflexively, it's usually not reason guiding you, it's anxiety. You're trying to prevent conflict, rejection, or disapproval. You're saying sorry not because you believe you've done wrong, but because you want to manage how others feel about you. Epictetus warned against this kind of thinking when he said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." In this case, it's not others' judgment that harms us. It's our own belief that we must always appease them. Let's look at how this plays out. You bump into someone slightly and instantly say, "I'm so sorry." Or you express your opinion and quickly add, "Sorry, I didn't mean to offend." You take up space in a conversation and then shrink back, apologizing for being too much. What's really happening is you're signaling to others, and to yourself, that their comfort matters more than your confidence. Over time, that message becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your identity. You start to live small, to speak softly, to exist carefully, all to avoid friction. But the Stoics didn't live carefully. They lived consciously. They believed that a wise person should act with calm dignity, not constant self-blame. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, faced countless situations where guilt could have consumed him. Yet he remained grounded, writing in his meditations, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't apologize for doing what was right, he simply lived it. Over-apologizing not only weakens your self-image, it confuses others about your strength. People subconsciously read apologies as admissions of guilt or inferiority. When you say sorry for existing, others begin to believe you're less certain, less capable, and less confident. The world reflects back what you project, and if you project insecurity, it will treat you accordingly. Now, Stoicism doesn't say never apologize. In fact, it values accountability. When you've truly done harm, a sincere apology is an act of virtue. It restores balance and harmony. But the key is intention. You apologize to correct a moral wrong, not to seek validation. You don't say sorry for being human. You say sorry for being unjust. So how does one stop over-apologizing while still staying kind? The Stoic approach is simple but powerful. Replace sorry with clarity. Instead of saying, "Sorry for being late," say, "Thank you for waiting." Instead of, "Sorry for asking a question," say, "I appreciate your help." This shifts your tone from guilt to gratitude, and a hallmark of Stoic calmness. Gratitude is strength. Guilt is self-punishment. Stoicism teaches us that the goal of life is not to be liked, but to live in harmony with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Over-apologizing violates all four. It clouds wisdom with fear, weakens courage, distorts justice because you take blame unfairly, and disrupts self-control. A Stoic knows that even kindness must have structure. When you stop over-apologizing, people might misread you at first. They might think you've become cold or proud, but that's only because they were used to your softness. Over time, they'll begin to sense something deeper. A quiet strength, a centered presence. You'll start to speak less but with more weight. You'll walk into rooms with calm assurance, not nervous energy, and that in itself is a form of kindness, because your confidence inspires others to own their worth too. In Stoic thought, every human being carries within them a spark of divinity, the logos, or rational soul. That means your existence itself carries inherent dignity. To apologize unnecessarily for that is to insult the divine within you. You were not born to beg for space. You were born to embody wisdom and virtue. So the next time you feel the urge to apologize for something small, pause. Ask yourself, am I truly at fault or am I just uncomfortable? If it's the latter, breathe and let silence do the work. The Stoic way is not to react but to respond and calmly, consciously, and with purpose. Remember, true humility doesn't mean lowering yourself. It means standing firm in truth without arrogance. Over-apologizing hides fear behind the mask of kindness. Real kindness stands tall, speaks gently, and never apologizes for existing with self-respect. Understanding others is one of humanity's greatest strengths. It's what allows us to connect, forgive, and create peace. But there's a dark side to being too understanding. When you understand too much, you start justifying mistreatment, excusing bad behavior, and tolerating disrespect, and are all in the name of empathy. What once was your emotional intelligence becomes your emotional cage. The Stoics would call this a failure of discernment, the inability to distinguish between compassion and compliance. True understanding doesn't mean tolerating everything. It means seeing clearly what is without illusion. When you excuse harmful actions because they're going through something, you may believe you're being kind, but you're actually betraying justice, one of Stoicism's highest virtues. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This means we should respond with calm, not cruelty, but it doesn't mean we must remain close to those who harm us. Stoic kindness never required submission. Understanding someone's pain doesn't mean you must endure their poison. Modern culture often praises empaths and people who feel deeply and see the good in everyone. While empathy is beautiful, unchecked empathy is dangerous. When you absorb everyone's pain, you stop distinguishing between what belongs to you and what doesn't. You start blaming yourself for the emotions of others. You become the emotional caretaker of everyone around you, while no one takes care of you. Stoicism offers a powerful remedy: emotional detachment without indifference. The Stoics taught that you can love others without becoming enslaved by their moods or actions. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." Meaning, recognize your own weaknesses first, so you don't become blind to the weaknesses of others. Understanding is valuable only when paired with wisdom. Without wisdom, it becomes self-sabotage disguised as compassion. Imagine this: a friend constantly disrespects your time, cancels plans, and treats you as an afterthought. Each time you tell yourself, they're busy, or they don't mean it, you continue forgiving, explaining, and rationalizing, but deep down, resentment grows. You're no longer being understanding. You're being avoidant. Stoicism would tell you that this pattern destroys inner peace, because it violates the principle of justice, fairness toward both others and yourself. The Stoics believed in sympathy, not submission. They encouraged compassion grounded in truth, to see others' struggles but not to absorb them, to help where it's right and to withdraw where it's wise. Seneca wrote, "He who spares the guilty harms the innocent." Sometimes, the innocent in that quote is you. By constantly excusing others, you harm your own spirit. Being too understanding often comes from fear. The fear of losing people, of being seen as cruel, or of feeling guilty for setting boundaries. But Stoicism teaches that guilt should only arise from moral failure, not from self-preservation. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. You are cruel only when you harm others unjustly. Refusing to be treated badly is not cruelty, it's clarity. The Stoic ideal is balance, empathy guided by reason. When someone behaves hurtfully, a Stoic doesn't respond with anger, but they also don't stay silent. They speak calmly, act firmly, and walk away when necessary. They understand the person's pain, but they refuse to let that pain justify destruction. This is emotional maturity, the ability to care without collapsing. There's a saying, "Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm." That sentence perfectly captures the Stoic view of empathy. You can offer warmth, but you must not burn. Every time you sacrifice your well-being to understand someone, you drift further from your own virtue. And in Stoicism, virtue is everything. It's the foundation of a good life. People who are too understanding often confuse forgiveness with access. They think forgiving someone means letting them back in. But Stoic forgiveness is different. It means releasing anger, not reopening the door. Marcus Aurelius forgave everyone in his heart, but he also ruled an empire. He made hard decisions, removed dangerous people, and protected his peace. You can forgive quietly, then from a distance. To be truly kind, you must first be just. To be truly understanding, you must first be wise. Empathy without limits becomes emotional slavery. But empathy with wisdom becomes strength. It allows you to see people for who they are, not through the lens of pity, but through the lens of truth. A Stoic would tell you, understand everyone. Excuse no one. That doesn't mean being cruel, it means seeing reality clearly. You can say, I know you're struggling, but I won't let you disrespect me. You can say, I understand why you're angry, but I won't absorb your anger. That's not hardness, and that's harmony. When you practice this balance, your kindness becomes powerful. People begin to sense that you care deeply, but you also stand firmly. They realize you have empathy, not weakness, and slowly your relationships shift. You no longer attract those who exploit your softness. You attract those who respect your strength. In the end, being too understanding isn't kindness. It's neglect, a neglect of your own soul. Stoic wisdom teaches that kindness without truth destroys the self, but kindness with truth heals the world. Be compassionate, yes, but never at the expense of your own peace. Because peace, to a Stoic, is the highest form of love you can give to yourself and to others. There's a kind of kindness that feels noble, the instinct to help, to rescue, to fix. You see someone struggling and your heart moves immediately. You step in, offer support, and take on their burdens as if they were your own. It feels moral, generous, and compassionate. But sometimes the very act of helping becomes the reason others never grow. The Stoics would call this the kindness that corrupts, because it removes struggle, and without struggle there can be no strength. We often believe that helping others is always good. But Stoic philosophy teaches that goodness isn't about comfort. It's about virtue and wisdom. When you constantly solve other people's problems, you may actually rob them of the lessons life is trying to teach them. You become their emotional crutch instead of their mirror. You relieve their pain for the moment, but prolong their weakness for a lifetime. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. This is the essence of Stoic thought. Adversity is the forge of character. If you take away someone's adversity, you take away their opportunity to become wise, disciplined, and self-reliant. Yet, many people who see themselves as helpers unknowingly act from ego, not virtue. They want to feel needed, appreciated, or morally superior. Their help isn't grounded in wisdom. It's driven by emotional dependency. Imagine a friend who always calls you when their life falls apart. Finances, relationships, emotions. You always listen, always advise, always comfort. But months pass and nothing changes. They repeat the same mistakes because they've learned that no matter what, you'll fix it. What started as kindness has now turned into enabling. You've created dependency, and dependency is the enemy of both freedom and virtue. The Stoics believe that every person must take ownership of their mind and choices. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of history's greatest philosophers, said no man is free who is not master of himself. Helping someone doesn't mean taking their responsibility. It means guiding them toward mastery of it. True kindness empowers others to stand, not to lean. When you enable others, you violate two Stoic virtues at once, justice and wisdom. Justice, because you prevent them from receiving what life owes them at the natural consequences of their choices. Wisdom, because you act emotionally instead of rationally. Stoic kindness is deliberate. It asks, will this help them grow or will it keep them weak? If your help shields them from learning, it's not compassion and it's control. This truth can be uncomfortable, especially for empathetic people. You want to see others happy. You want to remove their pain. But the Stoics saw pain differently, not as punishment but as a teacher. When you constantly rescue others from their pain, you silence that teacher. You interrupt the process of transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when what stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is the path, not something to be avoided, but something to be faced. If you truly want to help someone, don't remove their obstacles and help them see through them. Encourage their strength, not their dependency. Say, you can handle this, instead of let me handle this for you. That small shift in language changes everything. It transfers power back where it belongs, to them. And here's the deeper layer. Sometimes our impulse to help isn't really about them. It's about our discomfort with seeing others struggle. We can't tolerate their pain because it mirrors our own unresolved fears. Fears of failure, rejection, or helplessness. So we jump in to fix thinking we're being kind, when we're actually soothing ourselves. Stoic wisdom challenges this emotional impulse. It asks us to sit with discomfort, to trust that others are capable of facing their own battles, just as we must face ours. Helping becomes enabling the moment it replaces accountability with pity. The Stoic way is to help others rise, not to carry them. If you carry someone for too long, they forget how to walk. If you protect someone from every hardship, they forget how to endure. And when you finally step back, they feel betrayed, not because you wronged them, but because they never learned strength. So how do you help wisely? The Stoics would tell you, lead by example. Be steady in your own discipline, calm in your own trials, and compassionate without attachment. Offer guidance, not rescue. Offer truth, not comfort. Say what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Seneca said, associate with those who will make a better man of you. That's the essence of wise kindness, and it uplifts through honesty, not through rescue. True Stoic kindness doesn't remove the storm. It teaches others how to stand in the rain. It doesn't create dependency on it creates resilience. Because in the end, every person must face their own life with courage and reason. You can walk beside them, but you cannot walk for them. Helping others is beautiful, but only when it leads them to help themselves. Anything else is not love, but attachment. Not strength, but fear. The Stoic path asks you to choose wisdom over sentiment, clarity over comfort. That's how kindness transforms from weakness into power. When you finally learn to help without enabling, to understand without absorbing, and to care without losing yourself, that's when you embody the highest form of Stoic virtue. You become unshakable. You give from strength, not scarcity.